Hi, this is Gary from Southeast Texas. I'm going to be talking to you today about growing citrus in containers. I've got five different citrus trees I got growing in containers. I got another one I'm going to be planting up. First one we're going to be looking at, this is one that's about 5 years old, I think, 4 to 5 years old. It's a pomelo, and it grows, it's basically a sweet grapefruit. It's not very winter hardy. That's why I've got it in the pot or the container. These are old syrup containers for cattle. If you know if God that runs cattle, they'll give them to you. Probably. I mean, these were all given to me. And this is about the size tree you want. Because you want a tree, if you think about it, I want to put it in the garage when it gets cold, so you don't want it very tall. And you want it to be, you know, fairly wide. I wish it had a little more leaves on it, a little more vigor on it, but it's had a lot. We've had, well, you picked about half of them already.
Something like that.
And, you know, nice fruits. It's doing well. Sometimes I do have a T-post sticking here because it gets heavy and wants to push over that way. So that T-post here is to keep it from falling over. But that's the first one. That's Chandler Pomelo. Next one I'm going to show you is a Myers lemon, and this Myers lemon's got a bunch on it. I've probably taken almost a dozen off already. You see all the fruit that's on it. This one's at least 10 years old. The soil comes up to about right here right now. It's collapsed a little bit on me. Well, actually it's down lower. So it doesn't have a whole lot of soil in it. It wasn't that good of soil to start with. The potting mix wasn't that great, but it's done well. Now, Myers lemon does fine here in the ground if you don't get those really cold temperatures where it gets down in the teens. This one is a root cutting, so it comes back, if it did freeze to the roots, it could come back from the roots. Myers lemon is known for loving nitrogen, so you got to put a lot of nitrogen on it. In fact, that you're seeing on the leaves, some of the fertilizer burns that's on it, because I did put a fair amount of fertilizer on it. They are particular about sunlight or light in general. If you're going to grow one indoors or you're up north and you have to leave it indoors for several weeks, I wouldn't suggest a Myers lemon. I'd try one of the other lemons from what I've heard. If you change the lighting on it, they don't like it and tend to shed the leaves on you. Is what happens. Now, what I do is when it drops down into the teens, I'll take this and I'll pull it into the garage, and then once it warms back up in the 30s, I'll pull it back out. So it's not a problem for me. They're never in the garage for over 4 or 5 days before it warms back up, so that's why I can do this, and they work pretty well. I do, like I say, it needs to be repotted, potted up. I think this has been at least in this pot for 10 years. It was here before I came to this house, and so it should be right around 10 years. The next one over here I've got is a Clementine Mandarin. It's produced a lot of fruit. In fact, a little bit too much fruit. It's starting to bend over. So far it hadn't broke. The leaves aren't looking real healthy on it. I've added some fertilizer. I'm not that worried. If you got stuff, if you have your citrus in ground, you don't want to fertilize from about July on, because you want to kind of get them things to slow down and not grow a lot. What you don't want to have is, right now it's fairly dormant as far as growing, the new growth. They grow in spurts. If you get a growth spurt in December, January, and then you get cold weather, it's going to lose all of its cold dormancy, so cold tolerance. So you do want to be careful with that. It's not as important if you're in a container, because if it gets in the 20s, it's going to be in the garage, so it should be okay. But this one, like I say, it's done just fine. It's 4 years old, 3 years old. I think it should be the 4th year next year. This other one is another pomelo. It's 2 years younger than the other tree, so it's about 3 years old. It had 2 of them on it. The picture I'm going to show you on the thumbnail shows how big they are. Even this one's the smaller of the 2, is a lot bigger. The reason it's a lot bigger tree. I don't like the growth of this tree, because as you notice, the 8 foot's going to be really up there at the top. So I'm going to have to trim this top off and hopefully it bushes out more. It's also leaning some because I didn't have the T-post to keep it straight up, so you do have to watch out for that. The graft on this one is right here. You come in here and see the graft. So it's a grafted rootstock. That grapefruit set line right there, that's the graft. So this here is true. That's the Chandler Pomelo. Underneath here is going to be your rootstock, which is an edible, which will not produce true. It's going to produce the edible. It's going to produce the rootstock, which isn't very good fruit at all. You really don't want it. This in here is a pumpkin mandarin. It has produced a lot of fruit and it produces bigger fruit. I didn't say that about the other one. The Clementine is very seedy. It's almost, if you're going to eat that, you kind of want to be outside because you're going to have to be spitting seeds a lot. This one has a few seeds, but it may have 3 or 4 or 5 seeds per fruit, so that's not near as bad. It's also a really good taste. Both of these are really good tasting fruits, so that's not a problem. A little bit about caring for them. One thing you have to remember, in the summertime, you're going to have to be watering these every couple of days. When you hit 95 degrees or so, we had 100 degrees this year, they're going to go about 2 days without water because they're pumping all this pot here is full of roots and it's pumping out water. This tree's pumping out all the water for you. You got to keep it, you know, you have to keep them moist. I don't water them much in the winter time unless they need it. And you say, well, how do you know when they need it? Honestly, you walk over here, you take it. If it's heavy, and I think it's heavy right now, it's got plenty of water in it. If I pick it up and it's light, you need to water it. It's not real difficult. That's the easiest way I found it. Some people stick their finger in there or they'll stick it. To me, if it's heavy, it's got lots of water in it because water's heavy. If it's light, it doesn't have enough water. As far as fertility, some people try to go with organics. I don't like organics in containers because you need to get that biology worked up in those containers. It just doesn't work well. In ground, you get the mycorrhizas growing, you get the bacteria growing, and everything kind of stays. You have very subtle changes. This pot, it gets hot, it gets cold, it gets wet, and it gets dry, and it does it very quickly. And bacteria doesn't like that, so it's hard to get that bacteria to a place that it likes where it can break those organics down, because everything has to be broken down to the nutrients themselves. In other words, the elements themselves is what it takes in. It can't tell the difference in a nitrogen molecule or that came from organics or a nitrogen molecule that came from the synthetics. Plant can't tell the difference. Now, the overall health of your soil is better if you have organics, but again, we don't get that because we're in a pot. It's not a natural setting, so we don't get that natural bacteria growing. So what I usually use is Osmocote Plus. It's kind of the main one that's out there. I will say that since we live in the South, it's going to say feeds up to 6 full months. For us in the South, where we got a lot of hot weather and it's it stays wet most of the time, it lasts about half that time. Also, if you read on the back of this, it's going to say, feed a capful for every 2 gallons, I believe. Cut that in half, because remember, this is going to degrade twice as fast, so it's going to, I actually put too much fertilizer on the fig one time because I used what the instructions said, and then it started growing too fast, and I realized, well, it's because it's breaking down quickly. So just be, cognizant of that fact that it's, it's going to break down twice as fast, only use half as much, and it works well for you. And this is good if you want to do something every 2 or 3 months. You go out there and fertilize it. You do want to mix it into the top of the soil so you don't lose your nitrogen, because nitrogen tends to want to go back into the atmosphere. So if you leave it on top and it breaks down, it's liable to go up into the air and you lose it. The other one I'll use is the good old Miracle Grow. There is another one called Foliage Pro that's probably a little bit better for your container plants than Miracle Grow, but this is cheaper. If you're going to do this, you probably want to feed it once a week, and kind of just gauge it. You want it to be a dark green. If it's a light green, it's not getting enough nitrogen, basically. So next we're going to go over and going to show you how I'm going to plant up another one of the citrus trees I have over there. Okay, here I've got the bucket, and I went and filled it up to where I think it's going to need for the potting mix. The potting mix is basically, and I reused some stuff, but the basics is 5 parts pine bark mulch, and you want the finer type pine bark mulch. I like the I will get the back of it. The Living Earth pine bark mulch. put 5 parts of that in there, 1 part of perlite, and 1 part of peat moss. Mix it all together, and it comes out looking something like this. Now, when I pull this plant up, what they'll tend to do sometimes is, you see all these roots, it already rooted into the soil. So you have to be careful with that. You probably don't want to be planting stuff whenever it's got fruit on it, but they're almost ripe, and might be gone here recent. And this should be hard to get out. Okay, so see, it's not really bad root bound. What you don't want to see is a little bit of roots going around. You don't want to see roots wrapping around, and they're not, so that's good. Okay, I'm going to add a little more soil, because this is the best time to keep that soil in. That soil's going to get compacted, and when it gets compacted, it's going to shrink on you and not have as much soil. So you want to get this thing as full as you can, allowing enough area to be able to so you can put water in it and it won't run out the side. So you don't want to heap it over. You want to get about 1 inch from the ground. Okay, that's better. And just basically put the dirt around it, kind of level it out. Go ahead and I'll go ahead and finish planting this, and I'll show you when we're through. Okay, this is what it looks like when we're through. I've got it piled up. It's about how high you want it. We'll water it in here in a second. I did use 3 handfuls. I like to get scientific. 3 handfuls of this. I mixed in 2 handfuls after I set it down there, and about 2 inches before I covered it up, I add another handful. So that ought to be plenty to get it going. Again, citrus likes they like nitrogen, so if it doesn't have that dark green leaf on it, you want to add some more nitrogen. If you want to add more fertilizer, they do well in containers. They do better in the ground, of course, but if you can, you grow them in the ground. I grow these in containers. I do have a really big tree. People who's watched the video know it, but last year we had a really bad frost, got down into the low teens, and that froze back. I didn't have any fruit, so this way I've got fruit on this one. Plus, if I ever get a really bad one, it does ever kill that tree over there. And we got down like 12 degrees and it didn't kill it. But if it does, then I'll have something that I can save to be able to graft to start a new tree. But anyway, this is called a Ujukitsu. It's a sweet lemon tree. You can eat it just like you do an orange. It doesn't have any tartness at all. It does have a mild lemon flavor. But anyway, that's the 6 citrus I have in containers. Thanks for watching.